and introduced them to beads and trinkets, and they got fantastic pelts for it and made fortunes out of it. Then they built distilleries, the first distilleries in the colonies. And with those distilleries, they gave the Indians firewater. And then after that, rum was the great nexus between slavery in the Caribbean and the African trade. And I have it in the other room. Who brought the slaves to America?
The Jews.
You better goddamn right believe it. And the names were Eli, and I mean, you got them all down the list. Which makes me wonder, who financed the American War of Independence? Columbus told us. A kind Solomon or something like that. Why? Create a republic. Alienate them from the king. And then, in a century or so, after they built up huge prosperity, turn it over to the people through democracy by reinterpreting the Constitution through amendments, through jurisprudence, and abetting it all along the way with wars.
But now the Jewish people, as far as early colonization of the United States, that they weren't the ones that came over predominantly in the beginning.
No, not in the beginning.
You know, it was they financed. They were involved in the financing of the revolution. I would think they would also have colonized. You know what I mean? More.
Colonized.
They let us do
No.
all the dirty work.
Yeah, we do the dirty work. They
Sure.
come
Yeah,
in and
no, it would be to
swindle.
their advantage to have gotten over and done that too.
Well, they were here, right, really early. I said 1600s. Jesus, that's before the 1700s. They were here. You see, in the late 1600s. I have to go back. I just read it one time. It's an interesting book I read. Published in Germany. No, published here, but by a German author who had done research on it. Now, I've been brainwashed to believe, don't believe anything the German tells you. Well, now I'm reversing that. Maybe I should believe them and not believe. You know, I'm open. I want to know. Somebody I don't. And you can go to the Carnegie Institute, and you can look up. It's on record in Washington D.C. You can look up the roster of who owned these books. You can read their correspondence. You can read all this stuff. I mean, the author is documenting, say, if you don't believe me, go look it up.
Sure.
All right, so either it's a bluff, or it's anchored upon fact.
Or a little of both.
Could be. But a little of both will do for me. You have a long history of the hatred of and the treatment of peoples, as taught in the Talmud. So anyway, the Talmud grew and grew, and finally it came to the attention, after the fall of the Roman Empire, to the attention of the great Catholic popes. And they had a problem. The Romans killed them. The Romans just actually executed them, wiped them out. It's vermin. They're unassimilable. They have a belief that this filthy book called the Talmud is their ultimate authority. It's what makes them Jews. Wipe out the Talmud, wipe out those who are teaching it, and don't tolerate a Jew. Period. And that's what happened. Justinian laws outlawed the Jewish traffic and slavery, drugs and prostitution. There's other things in there about the Jews. All right. So, and by the way, Nero, that's another thing. If I had enough people right there, I could put them on projects. Here's a project for a young kid. If you want to write this up, if you've got literature in your belly and you can write, and by God, here's something you can do. Why don't you look up all you can on Propelia, or Porphyra. Forget her name now. She was the Jewess that Nero married after his first wife died. Nero, the Roman emperor. Nero apparently was a hell of a good guy in his early years. You know who was his best friend, or one of his best friends? The Roman poet Seneca, S-E-N-E-C-A. I'm sure you've seen it before. He's in the quote books out there. Seneca, great Roman poet, philosopher, writer. And they were friends. And then he marries this Jewess, Porphyra. She brings in her Jewish buddies, and they take over the control of the currency in Rome. And then a Talmudic story is foisted upon us in history. Right out of the Talmud. Burning an entire city, the queen of the Roman Empire, Rome, the whole thing in flames, because Nero, in his madness, wanted to get inspiration for a song as he played on his fiddle. You know that legend?
Yeah, he fiddled while Rome burned.
Come on! This is chutzpah. This is a big lie.
Yeah.
And everybody believes it because it's so preposterous, they have to believe it.
Yeah.
He ran afoul of the Jews. Let me tell you what happened to him. He married this Jewess. She corrupted him. And eventually, he got so goddamn pissed off at what happened. Oh, and in the meantime, Seneca, his friend, is writing criticisms of Nero's behavior and what he's doing. And Nero, I'm sure at the instigation of his wife, has Seneca silenced under threat of death. Seneca says, just exactly what did you say? Tell me, hear it again so I can really understand this. And he had a reason. And when he got all done, he took the language of his condemnation and then he published it. And he mocked Nero for it. And Nero went to his old friend and said, you have to die. And there's a wonderful painting in the Prado, the great art museum in Madrid, that you should see if you ever go to Spain. It's called, it's a painting by Rubens. And it shows Seneca. It's a great painting. Big thing. It's as big as this wall here. And he's standing there, and he chose his death. And it's a big basin. And he was standing there. And the basin was filling up with his blood. He cut all his arteries. He stood there, just bled to death. That's how he took his life. And Rubens painted it. All right. All right. I don't know whether it was before this or after this. I would suspect it would be after this, phonologically. Nero got so goddamn fed up with that Jewess he was married to. In a fit of rage, he grabbed her by his hands, strangled her to death. My God, hooray.
Well, now is this,
And then after that, we get this methodology.
that's how they're learning. So the,
No. So, you know, once you start seeing these stuff, you can say, well, probability is that this is probably what happened here. If you can't necessarily prove it, you don't have the evidence in it. But you can start to formulate some hypotheses and start making some extrapolations from these things. And they're much more plausible and much clearer, and much more comprehensible than anything else we ever got. All we got was reporting the facts. You know, and stuff like that. It's wonderful to read this.
but it doesn't show you the thread.
No, but it's there for somebody to research and find. Good God, that would be an interesting study. If I were young and if I'd met a guy like me, I'd say, what next? You know, I've got the outlines for a book to write. It's like a great student of a world-renowned professor. It would be like Humphrey Davies and Faraday. Faraday, who takes notes from Humphrey Davies and writes up the works of Davies and makes himself famous in the process and launches his great career. I wish we had those people. I think if I think about that long enough and keep that in my head, it'll happen. You know, dreams have a way of coming true. Funny thing about that. So anyway, the Talmud. So the popes now come along and they say, "All right, what do I do here? We can't kill him." Jesus taught, "Turn your other cheek." You know, we love your enemies, pray for your enemies, love your neighbors yourself. And I'm the holy vicar of Christ, the spitting image of Jesus on earth, representing the Messiah. I'm the Pope, the father of the church. The rock against which the gates of hell shall not prevail. I have to obey Jesus' teaching. He probably said it, it's better like to kill those bastards. But he probably said, I can't do that, it's that image. So, as a compassionate Christian, or rather Catholic Christian, quotes unquote, some Christian, reaction to Jewish crimes and Jewish swindles, they said, all right, we can't exile you, we cannot kill you. We won't punish you. But since you are an unassimilable, unconvertible people, you live here. You can't live with us. We won't kill you. If you come out into our midst, you have to identify yourself. That's where this yellow badge business comes from. Now, what is that? Let's get an alteration of perspective here. What would the Jews have us believe? That was discrimination against the Jews. That was persecution against the Jews. It's the other way around. It was a Christian compassionate reaction, a self-defense against the goddamn Jews. Now, not all Jews, but almost all.
Now you're saying when they were to wear this patch, we're talking what year in Rome?
Yeah, down through the Catholic era. We're talking from, I don't know, 400 right on down to this century. So the ghetto, it turns out, was a Christian act of self-defense against Jewish persecutions and crimes and discriminations against the hapless, stupid cattle called the Goyim. It's just the other way around. Just flip it around. And when the Jews say that the Gentiles discriminated against them by not letting them bear witness in courts of law or kicking them out of countries, what are they doing? They're projecting upon us the guilt they should bear for their nefarious activities all through history. Okay, now I told you that by 1290, William had kicked them out of England. They went to France and other places in Europe. In 1308, I think the year is, the king of France, possibly his name was Charles or Louis, I don't know, he kicks them out. They go to other countries. They're kicked out. All over the place they're kicked out. Nobody wants them. Why? They're unassimilable. They're a people apart. They believe they're superior. They are the chosen race. And their goddamn religion teaches discrimination and a double standard. And they don't know the truth to us. They don't know the truth or an accounting to us at all. And finally, man, the big boys. Ferdinand is the bell in Spain. 1492. You're out of here. Kicked them out. 1492, August the 7th, 11th, or 12th, or 2nd, or something like that. August 1492. They kicked it out. In 1497, same. Portugal. Portuguese king. Kicked all the Jews out of Portugal. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Why is that? Why is it that the Romans, every goddamn nation we've ever lived in there has always been the same? Is it because of what Columbus taught us?
No.
That the Gentiles are envious of their wealth and their privilege? Bullshit. That isn't the answer. Wasn't the answer at all. The reason was what I just said. The goddamn Talmud. Their Kol Nidra. Their vow of vows prayer, which says that whatever we vow, whatever we covenant, whatever we contract for, we can hereby disavow anytime we want to. And we shall not be held accountable for it. So long as we remember at the time of the disavowal, the vow we made today. Kol Nidra, you can look it up in the dictionary.
How you spell it?
Kolnidra. Look it up because I can't read my eyes.
You said that most Jewish people really don't. Well, first of all, you're not sure that there is they're so mixed that,
No genetic.
No genetic,
No.
okay. And then, as far as the connection being, is the primary connection the Talmud, period?
That's what Rabbi Stephen Wise said in the United States, the head rabbi this century here in the United States. He said, you call it communism, I call it Judaism. That's one of his famous quotes. Another one was, what makes a Jew? The Talmud. That's what makes the Jew.
But do Jews know that? I mean, do all Jews?
I don't think so.
That's my point. Yeah, exactly.
And so why do they? So that would be my question. What is it that makes you a Jew?
Right.
Is it your blood? Is it your Talmudic tradition? See,
but
he would say, no, it's not my blood because I'm not Semitic. I'm not really a Jew. I'm a Khazarian by adoption. I'm a proselyte Jew by my Khazarian blood. I said, well, what does that mean? I mean, that doesn't tell me much. What?
It's there, and they more or less describe it.
Here you go. Listen. Before I read this, I'd like for Ben to tell you something. He's known me for a number of years now. Ben, you hear me go pop off and you hear me go all over the place? And it sounds like I'm crazy and mad and a loose cannon, right? I mean, let's face it, let's admit the truth. I'm that way, aren't I? You hear all my stories, they sound like, my wife and Ben have even invented a term called the IEF, which stands for the Irish Exaggeration
I
Factor.
think that came from Mike.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, Mike, I think
Yeah.
came up with that one.
The Irish Exaggeration Figure. I sound like I exaggerate. I puff everything up, right? What have you found out about that?
Oh, it's incredible. Everything that he says, he backs up with words.
It comes true.
It comes true. All right, this is a trivial little insignificant thing. But Bill was discussing, I don't know if you know David Wells. He's the pitcher for the Yankees who went to the World Series and is incredible.
Most valuable player.
Most valuable player. He's going to win. And Bill
It's
says
a perfect game.
in
Very rare in the history of baseball
Yeah.
for over 100 years.
Yeah, this year he won 8-0 in the playoffs and in the World Series. One of the very
He was
best
the toast of all of baseball in the world
in
this
that
year.
city there in New York City.
Yeah. Plays for the New York Yankees, the team of Babe Ruth.
And he grew up here and knew Bill's sons.
And I've always said that.
Yeah, and he's always said that he's
my buddy. I taught him how to play baseball.
Yeah, and when
He
Joe,
reveres me.
yeah, well,
I said stuff like that. See?
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, come on, Martin, for Christ's sake."
am I supposed to tell this or you want to tell this?
Well, you can never.
And he said that David Wells came over when Joe died. Well, last night, I'd say about 7 o'clock, heard pounding at the door. I was over at Bell's house, and the guy next door
You listen to this, Howard.
comes in. And
No, I said, "Who is it?"
yeah, who is it? And he says, the guy, who was in the
Your neighbor next door.
And he was also a close friend of Lance and
He
mine.
sat at my feet as I taught him baseball.
Baseball. And he comes walking in, and right behind him comes David Wells, coming to see Bill Martin from all the years that he had known him.
Wow.
And he proceeded to sit there and talk for the next 2 hours
Yeah.
about, and all he wanted to talk about was his childhood, you know. And Bill's saying that, yeah, I know this guy, and this fellow looks Bill up. Bill didn't invite him, just came and dropped in. Well, what else is new? You know, here comes. So, I mean, it's a trivial little example, but everything that he says, I mean everything,
You better
ultimately can be proved and has basis in fact and gets more and more evidence every single day.
For example, I was talking about the filthy, dirty, rotten habits of the majority of the Jews in the world today, and why they've been detested by every race and every nation so far that we know. One of the reasons why that I just cited was the Kol Nidra. Okay, the Vow of Vows prayer. This sounds like very esoteric knowledge. I mean, my God, would you dig that up, Martin, for Christ's sake? You're some redneck in Montana who hates Jews. You've been reading his pamphlets, haven't you? Bullshit. Listen to this. I'll let Cheryl read it. Or you read it, Howard. It's right here. Capital letters for my son.
Okay.
Kol Nidra.
Gotcha. We'll read that.
Kol Nidra.
Oh, I almost need a magnifying glass to say this. That dictionary is small.
It gets smaller every year, too.
Aram, well, let's see. Something about all the vowels. French, the opening phrase of the prayer, 1881. A formula for the annulment of private vows chanted in the synagogue on the eve of Yom Kippur.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
I'll read it to you.
Yeah, it's just the annulment of that.
All about then. They cheated on this.
Yeah, they sure.
Private. Bullshit, it doesn't say private. It doesn't say private. So whoever put this in the dictionary was coached on this. But by God, they've got it there.
And then at least they say.
It says Kol Nidra. Kol Nidra, here it is. A formula for the, a formula, not a formula. It's a prayer. A formula for the annulment of private vows chanted in the synagogue on the eve of Yom Kippur, just as I said, except that you can scratch private and you can scratch formula. Kol Nidre means vow prayers. How's that one? And it was because of the Kol Nidre that the Jews were not allowed to bear witness because they were liars, pathological liars by their very religion.
How long has that been around?
Oh, it's been around for centuries, goes all the way back, way back. God knows how long.
Over 1,000.
But forget the Kol Nidre, because they'll argue, well, we had to do that because we were being persecuted, being forced into becoming Christians. So in order to protect our property and our family and everybody, we had to do that. And we wanted to let God know, why do you have to do that? God's supposed to read your thoughts before you begin with. Defense is always moral. What's all this about? But even if it is, the Kol Nidre doesn't say that. The Kol Nidre is a blanket statement.
Doesn't qualify.
Doesn't qualify it at all. But even if you scratch that, read the Talmud says, you don't know the truth to a Gentile. If you can fool a Gentile of his property, God will wink upon you, my sons. Stuff like this all the way through. Now, so you ask the question of a Jew, what makes you a Jew? Is it your blood? No, clearly not. That's not possible. Scratch that subject. Then is it your Talmudic background? Yes or no? Yes or no? If it's yes, then I'm not going to be your friend. You subscribe to the Kol Nidre and all the rest of the filthy goddamn doctrines in the Talmud. Well, I didn't know about that. Well, you don't. You follow your rabbi. You go to synagogue. You observe. Do you observe Passover? Do you observe Passover? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. You believe in genocide.
Maybe they don't know that.
Well, now they do.
No, they will.
And they will have to make the choice now.
But isn't that like a lot of people who think they're Christian? I mean, they've never read the Bible.
Every man, I quote Columbus here, let's settle the issue right now. Every man is responsible for his own morality.
I know.
So with the Jew, I will say, do you believe in the Passover feast? You know what the Passover is? The death angel passed over the houses of the Jews because they had the blood of the Paschal lamb on their door. But every firstborn male was killed in all the land of Egypt.
Oh yeah, I remember that story too.
My God. That's genocide.
It sure is.
What
Wait,
about those little kids?
explain this a little more, please.
The Passover feast is the commemoration of the salvation of the Jews and a sign from God. Because the death angel passed over the house of the Jews because they had put the blood of the lamb on their door. But any door that didn't have the blood on it, the death angel came in and killed the firstborn male child.
Yeah.
But you know what the Bible says? It doesn't limit it to that. I didn't know this until I started reading it for myself. It kills all the firstborn male animals too.
Oh, brother.
But who's doing the killing?
God, through his death angel.
Death angel.
That's why it's called the Passover feast.
So it's
The
not
Passover
something.
for the house.
It's not something that happened actually. See,
Forget that.
Oh.
It's just a story that they
Yeah.
believe in, you see. It's some stupid fable, but they believe it. They commemorate it. I would say, shame on you.
Genocide.
That's your God? To hell with your God. You tell your God to go shove it. He's a goddamn murderer. He's a pompous ass. He's a big filthy Jew in the sky, lording it all over all the other Jews. And he's just a figment of the imagination of these Jews. My God, by their gods you shall know them. So pardon the language, but I get a little upset about this. After all, the fate of mankind is hanging in the balance here.
I agree, and I get equally as upset of the Christians, which there are many.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Every man is responsible for his own morality, Global said. I totally agree with that. No excuses. No excuses. So I'm saying to the Jew, do you believe in the Passover? Yes, I do. Do you observe it? Yes, I do. Then depart from me. You believe in genocide.
Yeah.
And you discriminate against the Gentile. Shame on you. You believe in that? You want to be my friend? You must renounce that. And you must renounce the Talmud. And you must renounce your claim of being a Jew. Unless you can give me a good reason for why you are a Jew. other than your Talmudic origins. And if you say that you're a Jew on grounds other than the Talmud, you're going against a leading rabbi of the United States, certainly one of the most prominent rabbis in the world at that time. His name is Stephen Wise. And you know who he is. He said, what makes a Jew is essentially the Talmud. He also said, you call it communism, I call it Judaism. So, ask yourself the question. Then, all right, let's say he says, okay, I'll buy into that. I says, okay, then what makes you a Jew? One of the answers I got recently was, well, all my ancestors were Jews, and they were persecuted, and I'm loyal to them. I said, I didn't say, for business reasons, I didn't say anything. But now I'm saying, what kind of a flimsy defense is that? What if they were persecuted? What if they weren't persecuted but punished? For their own persecution of those who punished them. I mean, how do you know that they were innocent or guilty? And why do you advance this credit to them, that they were innocent victims, when you don't know the history? Something else is going on in your mind, deeper than this. The basis of your loyalty. What is that? Oh, you're the chosen people. Chosen. Chosen by whom? I would never accept the choice of that God if he wanted to choose me. I'd say, go to hell. You can't choose me. You're unfit to choose me. I'm better than you are. Now, see, those are the kind of arguments that should be put before these people. But, you know, you're Goyim, so it doesn't really...
Just water off their back.
Yeah,
How far did you go with your friend Seabird? Is that his name?
No, Siegel.
Siegel.
Oh, I've mentioned most of this to him, not all of it, but quite a bit of it. Not offended at all.
That's good.
Does he-
Finally, in the final analysis, he says, well, you know, let's face it, Bill, I'm a Christian. I was a Christian Science the way I was raised. I'm really not a Jew. It was beautiful. That's why he's still my friend.
He's pretty much intellectually honest.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
How is his health now?
Better than it's ever been in his life.
Really?
Yes, because of what we're doing here with the soybean extract and minerals and vitamins and eating right and exercising. I'm the one that's not exercising, but I will be.
Very.
Spontaneous output. Years cannot take very.
Well, see, the whole thing is, I mean, that's why I've been very involved in digging in about the history of religion and so forth. Very, very involved with it. And there's very few that can, because if they're not Christian, they'll be Muslim. If they're not Muslim, they'll be whatever. And everybody wants a crutch. And
No crutches allowed. In freedom, there won't be any necessity for it because, as Kamal says, it's much easier to work than it is to starve to death.
You bet.
Simple as that. We live in a world that coddles and weakens and cripples people from birth. Beginning with these goddamn mothers that go out and work and abandon their children.
you know, the education system's doing a fabulous job too.
I know.
Do you remember my presentation at the 10th anniversary of FBI?
Yeah.
It was on that subject.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was the crippling of the education system of the mind, and I consider that one of the greatest tragedies we have going.
I agree. You should read my book, I Accused.
You did get that.
That was the whole point of it. Matter of fact, I had as my visual the chains of the child with the chains on its head that they use in Radio Free Europe
I
as
love
my
that.
visual on it.
I love that speech. And her dad, she was clapping about something, and her dad reaches up and pulls her hair.
Is that right?
She doesn't remember that, but I was just sitting 2 seats behind.
But I went over most people's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Well, you had quite a struggle, and Galamos helped you to find the true meaning of life.
Oh yeah, well,
no, you ain't found it yet.
no.
You're finding it now.
Oh yeah.
Through me. You'll find it. You've got to disabuse yourself of some of those presumptions that you made, presuppositions you made, in order to reconcile yourself with the consequences of Galamos' interactions with you. You took the pathway of toleration and forgiveness. And that was very damaging to your self-esteem, as I said. If he or anybody else does anything to you that is unjust or criminal in its nature.
So how about stupid and irrational but not criminal?
Criminal if you confront them with it and they are intellectually dishonest, then it becomes a crime, you know that. At that point, then you have to say, okay, on what grounds do I forgive? If I forgive before or in the absence of those 4 requirements of restitution, then you have sabotaged your own self-esteem. It's not good for you. People have to learn how to behave and be accountable for what they do. I don't give a goddamn who they are. Right?
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Oh, yes, but I've also
You
learned.
can still love them.
And I've
You know what I
learned,
mean?
and I've learned there's a time and a place. I've learned there's more than one way to solve a problem or approach a problem. So, you know, I just,
But the principle for solving the problem is one. There are many different ways that you can apply the principle. The principle stands inviolate. And the principle here for restitution, which is the basis for a proper understanding of how you forgive someone, that remains inviolate. They have to voluntarily admit their error. They have to make an apology. They have to provide financial restitution, including damages, if any, if there have been any P2 damages. And then finally, they have to demonstrate they have learned from the experience, which Colombo says was the hardest thing of all and the most important in his theory of restitution. And he said the first 2, the voluntarism and the learning from the experience, are by far the hardest 2. And the easiest of the 4 is the primary and the secondary restitution. He said, those are easy. I would have thought they were the hardest to apologize. Oh my God, most people could never do that. And secondly, to pay money and plus damages, oh my God, that's impossible. Column says those are the 2 easiest. The two most difficult are the first and the fourth. Voluntary and learn.
And they'll never to repeat it.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Galamos didn't just say, that's my recommendation, that's my spin on the theory of restitution and the basis for an apology. He didn't say that. He said, this is the theory of restitution. He repeated it. I think we have 5 different separate places for it. Ben, you want to bring those in here, please? I'll show them to you. I made copies. I spent an entire day going through my notes. It took me more than a day. I searched everywhere for that. And I kept copious, very accurate notes.
These are the notes that we ought to put in those page savers, those plastic page savers.
I copied the whole thing. But
Yeah,
it's not in.
Ben made these copies. Here it is, the first time that he mentioned it.
I think it's at the end of that first one.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, so it's at the very end of OEC session. I forget the session number. I didn't put it down on those days. I'm an idiot, but it can be done. It was November the 5th, 1976. He introduces at the very end of the session the theory of restitution. And there they are. There they are. Dated November 5th, 1976. First time he announces it in his open-end course.
Those are your written notes.
Yes. And he says here, 4 factors involved. Oh, he also was going to give a course on this. He never did give the course. And almost always, he introduced the gist, and the essence, the outline of his courses to come in here, in this course. This was his open-end course. This is where he talked out loud about whatever was on his mind. And he says, so the sequential order of effecting restitution is, it must be voluntary. And then he talks, most people are so insensitive, they don't even realize they've interfered with property. Clearinghouse is ingeniously designed for it reduces the incentive to crime without acts of retaliatory coercion. These wonderful notes here. And then he talks about concerning the voluntarism. A, voluntary without coercion as an alternative to voluntary, let's see, coercion. This is a reflection upon integrity. I mean, it is a good tip-off as to whether a person has integrity. It has to be self-done. If you have to extract the apology from them, they flunk the first part of it. But maybe they can learn a lesson from this. The second part is that there's a sequential order of effecting restitution. The first part is the second part here of the overall, and that's P1 restitution, and there's P2 restitution if applicable. And number C is ability to learn from making the restitution. The P1 restitution is apology, the weak man who cannot apologize. He talks about putting into a long discussion, the weak man who cannot apologize. Do you forgive a man who will not apologize? The answer is no. P2 restitution if loss of reputation, time, damage to another. The error must stop. If it does not, the restitution is inadequate. So there's a delay time before you forgive. There has to be. It follows from here. The error must stop.
Yeah.
If it does not, the restitution is inadequate. Even if you got money and even if you got an apology. If they continue in their errors, in their ways. Or you can forgive them and you can retract the forgiveness. It's like the bestowing of a degree. You can always take it back.
Well, that's what he did with Nelson.
Yes, he did. All right, that was in November 5th, 1976. Okay, here we got another one. Okay, 1 month later, it comes back to it in the next OEC. God, this was a great OEC. I think it's right here.
Right on the top.
Restitution must always be made before the original audience. So, if you're making restitution, if you're satisfying the theory of restitution, and more than the injured party was involved, including those who were apprised of this and heard the claims, were witness to the crimes, that these were broadcast to other people, then they also owe the apology not just to you, but to the public, anybody who else was involved in it.
He has yelled at Susie before, and then apologized to her later in front of me.
Yeah, sure, that's how it goes, see?
Yeah.
Now, here he is, he's repeating it again, this time at the beginning of the session. He talks about the theory of restitution. He just goes through 1, voluntarism, 2, P1, let's see, it says oral or better yet written. Oral or better yet written. See, each time he gives a little added dimension to it. P2, monetary or its equivalent. Doesn't have to be money. Could be its equivalent. You agree upon it. And number 4, learn from the mistake and the payments you make, if any. He says restitution is not damaging to you. Rather, it is constructive. The fact that you have to be apprised of an interference with another's property is evidence of your lack of sensitivity, which in turn is a result of a lack of your weakness, or of your weakness in generalizing the subject of justice. In other words, it's a result of your weakness in generalizing the subject of justice. I guess I read that wrong the first time. Such appraisals being negative inputs to self-esteem and the eventual emergence of the ego minor, whatever that's about. A major psychological disorder is the inability to cope with unalterable facts of reality. Chief among these unalterable facts is death. Hence you get religion. You get the consolation prize of being a brother in the Lord. Such appraisals being negative inputs to self-esteem and the eventual emergence of the ego minor. He talks about the ego minor here. He's starting to get into that, man. This is 1976. So he'd already given it, but not just getting into it. So there's that. And then the next time he talks about it is on May 13th, 1977, wherever that is.
And this is in your dictionary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but this is the actual time and place where it was done. Unfortunately, I don't have access to these tapes. I should be, but I don't have access to them. If I had access to those tapes, I'd get the actual language, and I'd put that in black and white. But I got the notes. My notes are there. He talks here about...
Well, you're going to get access to those tapes, aren't you?
Not until I can get rid of the interlopers who have control of things. They've got to go.
Well, and it doesn't take any lawsuits or anything like that, right?
It's absolutely correct.
Well, what is the status? Or am I interrupting you?
Let me just see. I can't find it in here, Ben. See if you can find it. There's a good comment here about that here. Well, let's face it. I'm dealing with flatlanders, and they do not respond to reason. They are in obvious rebellion for the professor's wishes. I like to run quiet and deep. I've already won the battle historically. Hands down. they've got to satisfy the theory of restitution. They should know better.
They're in the wrong. And you didn't have to sue them to find out. You just asked the
I made a
court.
petition to the court. Do you know anything about this at all?
I know a little.
Yeah, I simply petitioned the Superior Court of San Diego to get a ruling on the amendment to the trust that appointed Hayes and Joyner as co-trustees. I knew that was a violation of Galamos' teachings, overtly violating Galamos' teachings. That was done by Mrs. Galamos, who didn't understand the damn theory well enough to be able to at least structure the amendment of her trust in a manner that would be consistent with her husband's teachings on single entrepreneurship and trusteeship of natural estates.
Yeah, you brought
Besides,
that
she
up
signed it
to me.
as an attorney in fact. And her husband never did that. So since I couldn't get the co-trustees to see the light of day, I simply gave them a dose of their own damn medicine. I went to the Superior Court, they love the flatland law, let them okay, they'll obey that. But I didn't sue them. I simply went to the court, didn't even ask for these things. I would never have even gone to them. I just wanted a Superior Court judge to rule, is the amendment legal? Was it done with the permission of the trustor who wasn't present to sign it? And the judge ruled. And he said, Hayes is no longer a trustee because the amendment is invalid. That's all. Don't sue anybody. Just petition the court. Just another input. It's for history. It's very good. I don't need the court. But maybe they'll listen to that. They certainly don't listen to the Galamos.
And they're very defiant. They're very defiant of,
So I'm just saying, okay, the historical record will clear. Oh, this is not about that, is it?
It's the okay, and then in the middle of that, he briefly touches.
Well, here it is. Oh, yeah. He says, ego miners, like snowflakes. They have unlimited manifestations, such as the phrase, okay. An example. Use an example. An escape from criticism. You know, you're criticizing somebody, and they go, okay, okay, I heard you, okay, okay. Right? Galamos, oh, that's an ego collapse, you know. Why is it? He explains it. I heard you, get off my back. That's what that means. Galamos then says, I'm sorry. Then P2 restitution. Then learn. This is the proper response. Okay is not. Somebody offends me, hurts me, damages me, for them to call up and say, I'm really sorry for what I did. I say, thank you very much. You also damaged me financially. Good time. You owe me restitution. It's not me saying it, it's Galamos. If there was P2 damage, you owe restitution plus damages. Here's how I calculate the damages. Here's what John lost as a result of the expenses I've had to incur. You're sorry? That's primary restitution. It's wonderful that you come to me on your own. But the professor said that restitution has to satisfy 4 things. The third thing is pay me my damages. If you can't afford it, we'll arrange for it to be paid over the next 100 years. And number 4, demonstrate that you learned from this. If you can show me some proof that you've learned from this, I'll forgive you. But don't backslide. Don't withdraw that. It's not me talking. I'm just following Professor's teachings here. And you do believe in that, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
I do. Do you? You haven't so far. Now here's your chance. Good sign. You're apologizing to me. You're stepping down. Thank you very much. I'm the most wonderful man in the world to work with. Just leave the theory. Then you have the next one, which is, this is all on the theory of restitution. Then in BFSC, backflow special course, this is the history course. He gives it in here, I think, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Same thing. Oh, here, no, this isn't it.
But here's something that's so great for history concerning Galamos' Jewishness.
Oh, great.
Now we know the Kol Nidra is uttered on the night before Yom Kippur. Am I right? You heard it, read it, I've told you
Right out of
that.
the dictionary.
And Galamos was a Jew. One of the questions I was going to ask him, and Ben has pointed this out. Good question to ask Professor. Did you know about Yom Kippur? Did you know about the Kol Nidra, vow of vows prayer, and its history? Yes or no? I wouldn't say yes or no. Did you know about this? You know about the Kol Nidra? Oh God, what a question to ask Professor. If he says yes, the inescapable next question is, well, what do you think of it? Do you think it speaks well of your people? Or not? I wish you were alive today. Not because I want to get at him.
Oh, I know, you want
Because
to
I
know the
revere
answer.
him. I
Yeah.
revere him. I want to know what he thought about it.
Exactly.
And then, digging through my notes, I found this! It's great! God damn it, this was on tape too. And it's my notes, and here it is. It says, I never attended a synagogue in my life. He never attended a synagogue in his life.
I've heard
Which
you say
means,
that.
which means he never sang the Kol Nidra prayer. Because that's done in synagogue.
I have heard him say that he's never gone to a synagogue.
Now, what does that tell you? Just what I said.
Yeah.
He never had the occasion to learn about it.
Oh.
Now, the next question I would ask him, well, didn't your father teach you about that?
Obviously not.
You know, wonderful news.
Yeah.
So we have something answered here. And there's probably a whole lot of other extenuating, mitigating evidence here that'll put Galamos in the position of a man who naively trusted in what he had learned through the propaganda that all of us went through. And ironically was able to take all these lies and as history and use that to come up with a solution to the very cause of the lies in the first place. The incredible paradox, the incredible genius of the man. I love it.
Yeah.
So here's that was, oh, by the way, he said that in 1984 when he was starting to get a little bit losing it. But it was a great blessing in disguise because he couldn't process things logically as well as he could earlier because of his sickness. And so therefore he had to revert back to earlier times in his life where his memory and his recall was much stronger for some reason that I don't know. It's a symptom of the disease.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Okay.
They do.
And so as a result
Matter
of
of
that,
fact, the last thing he reverted to was the language of Hungarian
yeah,
language.
isn't that amazing?
Right.
Yeah, it's like a recapitulation in reverse of life. Like embryonic development, the recapitulation of that. It's reverse in a different sense. And this was, he said this in BFSE, session 45, 1984, February 12th. Never, yeah, it's great news.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that reminds me that he had said that. I had heard him say that.
Here it is in my notes.
Yeah.
It is in my notes. I guarantee you. I bet my life you go to the tape, it's there. I didn't make that up. I had no reason
Oh,
to.
shit.
But see, that also says that his father
Shielded him from
not only
whatever
shielded
he
him,
did.
but probably didn't even participate either,
Yeah,
or he
yeah.
would have had him.
Although it's hard for me to believe that his father wasn't privy to it. But then again, maybe not. His father was a universal thinker.
But
From
see,
all that I know about him, he was a great man.
but they can always miss certain areas.
Yeah, like we've been talking about.
Right.
In this case, ignorance is bliss. All right, here's another one. OEC Special Extra Session, 1977, December 4th. And here again, Galamos, yeah, on the second page of my legal size notes here, here he's talking about, he goes, it says, I invite you to upstream in production and in time. The Right Filtration Mechanism is my book. Why hasn't Galamos written his book? He's still teaching his pilots how to fly. That's his language, but these are my notes. Drawing on the Wright brothers. From all losses, you must learn to profit. Okay, continuing my notes, now watch this. You must loathe the guaranteed wage and the 40-hour week. If you don't, you won't have that extra emotional spur to resist the lure of flatland. So I've been talking about today. Flatland. Did you find it? Where nothing works and everything gets worse. I agree. You have to develop stamina. You have to work yourself to the bone. Develop stamina. It's still hearing. I got exclamations after this one. Then he goes into the theory of restitution. Theory of restitution. 1, voluntarily recognizing a restitution is due. 2, primary apology. 3, secondary restitution. 4, learn from the mistakes and never repeat them. He said, I'd rather take you in trickles, but good ones, instead of torrents, but failures and misapplications. God, these crazy quotes are so good. I'm sorry to have to tell you this about my son. I love my boy. I asked him the other day, I said, Mike, where's your notes? And I'm sure he's probably better than most people ever took Columbus' course. He says, well, they're in storage up in the attic. I says, don't you read them every day? Obviously not. But that's better than most people. I've asked people over the years, did you ever keep your notes? Oh, I don't know. I don't know where they are.
I got them right up front in my room.
Sure. Now here's the last time he mentioned it, I believe. This was September 23rd. Oh, this was out of date. No, that was the thing about the Talmud. I mean, co-leader. So so the last date that he mentions that I have any record of was in BFSC. He never gave a course on it. It'd be interesting to see if he discusses these components of restitution, the guidance to all of us on how to properly forgive, how to properly ask for forgiveness. I plan to honor the theory of restitution on this. I never want to live my life in a manner that's inconsistent with Columbus' teachings. It indicates. That's why I challenge the co-trusteeship. It's not in accordance with the theory.
No, well, you said that on your May 1st meeting.
Simple, that's right.
But now that you have made it so it's not a co-trustee, it is, correct?
It's now a joiner.
So, I mean, so now it is consistent with what you would call his wishes?
It's consistent with single trusteeship, yes. It is now consistent with that. I got a problem with joiner, big time. He doesn't acknowledge me as Galamos' choice for literary executor. What the hell's wrong with him? I've asked him, I says, what's wrong with you? You don't have the authority to hire anybody. You don't have the authority to choose whether or not I qualify to be a literary executor. That isn't your choice to make. That choice was made by Professor Galamos. What the hell's wrong with you? 7 hours I had him here in this office on that point.
And here he's doing criminal acts by hiring other people completely against
the right to do
Ronald's
that.
wishes. That's criminal.
Plus I already demonstrated I can do the job.
Oh, you bet.
They haven't seen my work yet. They think they have. They have a big surprise ahead of them. I told Hayes, don't be so foolish as to try to go into contention with me.
Oh, he's learning.
No, he's not.
You don't think so?
He's intractable. If you can learn him.
He'd be making restitution to you.
I was waiting for that. Good for you, Howard. Good for you. Yeah, he ended session 33 of BFSC, which he gave on April 19th of 1981. He ended it. The third restitution thing. Again, I put a big star there. A wonderful thing. So I just said it myself. You want to look at that again?
Yeah.
That was pretty doggone important.
Oh, it's the crux to the solutions.
Of course it is. You hear, what did I say? 4 components of the theory of restitution. He keeps saying 4 components. All of them have to be honored. 1, voluntary. It must be a voluntary action, or he said, and voluntarism. You like that word, voluntarism. 2, P1 apology. 3, P2. He has P1 restitution apology. 3, P2 restitution financial. 4, learn from the mistake so that it will never be repeated. There it is again. So, you know, how do you accept somebody's apology? Like somebody, I had problems with my son Joe. Joe says, I'm sorry, Dad. I says, you are? He says, yeah, Dad, I'm sorry. And in those days, I admit it, I didn't live according to this, and I think it hurt my son. I accepted it. I said, okay, you're forgiven. Wrong. Wrong.
No, wait. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Violated Columbus's theory.
This is what I'm talking about, evolutional development. See, I'm into, evolutional development. That's what has to be done. We can't just skip from here to here. And that's why, now you know, but it's a better step than non-forgiveness altogether. But now you know a better way. It's just improving on.
But it wasn't, see, it was not consistent with the theory of restitution, so I erred on that occasion.
Yes.
And you hurt your son, you think,
And I think I did.
by not.
I should have said, Joe, sit down with me here. To accept your apology is a violation of Columbus's theory of volitional science. Here are the reasons why. That you came to me voluntarily. I love you for it. And thank you. But it isn't enough. Number two, and you have apologized to me. And I love you for it. And thank you. It's wonderful. I accept your apology. But it's necessary for you to make restitution to me for the damages you caused Julie on her credit card. Use the credit card to buy a goddamn engagement ring for his girlfriend.
Oh my God.
Never told us.
Well, that was the third thing. You got to financially.
And I said, and you owe me restitution on that.
Yeah.
Not because I want to get wealthy because of your payments back to me.
You want justice.
Yes, and because this is an opportunity, as he said it, not this one, but the one before this one, I think. It's an opportunity for the person that has caused the problem to learn from his experience. There's a pain to that, but it's a positive pain. He grows from it. And then I said, you owe that to me. Now, I'm not going to ask for it once because I know your means are limited, but you need to pay that back to me, not for my benefit, for your benefit. Now, one more thing, Joe. Demonstrate that you've learned from it. When you can do that, when you make arrangements for that, my son, you have my forgiveness.
What year is that the incident occurred?
Right about this time, I'm ashamed to tell you that I didn't, you know how it is, you learn it and you don't live it yourself.
Well, it's the point, this is my point, is that we don't learn it all at once. And if we keep working and seeking truth and understanding and knowledge, we'll get better and better and better, and we integrate more and more and
Fine,
more.
I understand that process, but let me tell you something. Until you do it, you're not living it.
Oh, I know.
That's
Well,
my point.
but we're also going to even expand on it.
Yes. So, yeah.
I know we will.
But don't let your argument be an excuse for not living it.
I'm not.
Good. All right, so those are my takes, and I never heard him talk about it. He probably did in his sub-volitional courses.
You don't think it was in any
did.
201s?
Not that I
See,
can remember.
I'm finding this hard to, I'll have to go through my 201 notes, and of course
I don't think you'll find it. You might.
I took
If you do, let me know.
Yeah, because see, I don't know if he took all of his live 201 classes, and
Not all of them.
he kept evolving in his 201 classes.
But
And-
you know the professor had picked his V201 of the years 73 and 4 as D standard. So, I don't know, and by the way, I never took that course.
What?
V201 vintage 1973, 74,
What ones did you take?
72 and 73. And that's not my fault, that's Lang's fault. Lang had said that the 72, 73 vintage of V201 was superior, was better. It was not as long, it wasn't as drawn out, it wasn't as anecdotal, it wasn't as rambling. So he and Bonnie had made the decision to give us this and that's an act of rebellion. Because I didn't know it at the time, I learned it later. That's an act of rebellion. Who are they to say, goddamn, it's not their P1. Galambos said, 73 and 74. That's his favorite. That's the one he thought was the cat's meow. It captured everything. And here's Lang giving me, and you, Ben, 72 and 73. All of us in San Diego got 72 and 73. It's shorter, it's very good, and in some ways probably better, because, he stays on track. But, I'm learning that the more Galambos goes up and goes into these other areas, he'll come back. Oh, it's so rich. You're
Absolutely.
getting all kinds of stuff here. It's just
Right.
wonderful. It's fun. It's glorious.
Well, that's why, see, I took all of his, because I was staffing him, Live 201 classes from 71 all the way.
Uh-huh.
And I have all my notes as he evolved.
I got some on you. I got all the ones from the 60s.
Yes, exactly. So you put yours together and mine together. We got up-to-date 201 notes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I took it 3 times in the 60s.
Yeah, I did too. I took it up. I think I had beat 201 probably minimum I don't know, between 5 and 8 times. I had concept 21
Yeah.
20
all of them.
times.
All of them.
I took beat 250, I don't know how many times. But I kept coming back and I went to the OECs and BFSCs and all those other courses. And my belief at the time was, hold your feet to the fire. Keep exposed. Suffer through the interminable hours. Because the closer you sit to that powerful flame,
Oh,
you
yeah.
never know what you're going to get. For example, a great example. I forget the year, but I got the notes. He took a bet. And the bet was, can you give all of V50 and V201 in 2 hours? I think it was 2 hours. I have to look at my notes. And he invited everybody to come up and listen, see if he could do it. Well, hell, I wasn't curious. Everybody wanted to see whether he could do that or not. So I drove up and listened to that. And he was showing signs at the time of an incipient or inchoate, or of the beginning of a spent man, a spent force. And it was he went here and there, having a hard time tracking. And hold me down. Out of his mouth issued the philosophy of volitional science. And just like that, oh, I'm so glad I captured it. He mentioned semantics, scientific method, Occam's razor, and a couple of other things. Oh yeah, and the search for postulates and the cultivation of the long-term point of view. And it dawned on me, never heard that before. So, and I had a brainstorm, and this is my work, because he didn't expand on it. He was rattling things off as fast as he could. He's got a bet. You know what I mean? It got so bad, quite frankly, that he would say, and then there was the ideological program, and then there was this, and then there was that, and there was this, but virtually
And Newton integrated physics, and that's it?
yeah, like that, you know. I'm exaggerating here, of course, but but in that vein. And it's the only time I ever heard it put that way. He says, and then we have the philosophy of physics or science, whatever, how you put it, and you know, which begins with semantics and is followed up by the scientific method. You got Occam's razor, and you got the search for postulates, and you've got the cultivation of the long-term point of view. And I went, oh my God, I got them all down. And I said, and then I thought about it. I thought about it on the way home. And I said, what the hell is philosophy? Columbus always defined philosophy as love of knowledge.
Sure.
It isn't. It isn't the love of knowledge.
Well, it's close.
Yeah, it's really the love of wisdom.
Okay. That's right. I think I saw that in your dictionary. Well, you crossed out knowledge and put wisdom in there. See there? Yeah, I remember that.
And the philosophy of wisdom, the philosophy of science means the love of the wisdom of it. All right, well, I remember Columbus once defined wisdom, more or less in these terms, if not exactly in these terms, as the right application of knowledge, which means not just a rational application of knowledge, because it's right, therefore it's also moral. So it's rational and moral, or the ethical application of knowledge. So, on our way home, here's how my thoughts went. Well, if love is a powerful emotion, and this is a love for wisdom, and if you possess this love for wisdom, you are therefore by definition a philosopher. How in the hell do you know that you really got the love? And I was thinking of my wife, who and my other girlfriends in my life. Well, you say you love me, but prove it. Take me out for dinner, or buy me a corsage, or, I mean, it's cute, and I'm saying this with great affection. I mean, women like to see, not just talk, they like little things. My mother always used to say to me, if you love your wife, tell her every day you love her. And you're a man, and it'll make your tongue break to say it, because you can't believe you have to say it again the next day, but women like to hear it every damn day. And she says, if you don't say it every day, then if you can't say it, just tell her, I can't say it, but I do. Well, I love you anyway. or give her a little note and says, make a little heart on it, or reach around and kiss her on the back of the neck and say, That's what he's doing. Walk away. What's all about? Oh my God, what a wonderful man. He pays so much attention to me. My mother always said you do that. So love, thinking along those lines, I'm driving back to San Diego, and I asked myself a question. I said, okay, a lover of wisdom is a philosopher. Great, prove it. How do you manifest this love? These are great phrases, what are the identifying characteristics of this love? What is the morphology of this love? Morphology, discourse on structure. What's the structure of this love? What are its members, its joints, its anatomy? That's like the woman saying, you say you love me.
To prove it.
Yeah. So I said, the anatomy of philosophy, which is the love of wisdom. What's the anatomy of it? What are the identifying characteristics of it? How does it manifest itself? Oh my God. It's manifested through semantics. But not just semantics. Also the use of the scientific method and no other. And this love of wisdom is also manifested by the love of simplicity, Occam's razor. It's also manifested by the search for universal postulates. It's manifested by the cultivation of a long-term point of view. And then my thoughts went, well, what does that mean? Long-term point of view. Well, what the hell? Religionists have a long-term point of view. Politicians have a long-term point of view. Churchill talked about 1,000 years. Hitler talked about 1,000 years, right? So what do you mean by this? He didn't go. He didn't explain it. He was in a rush. He had a bet. What does it mean? And I went, oh my God. It must have to do with taking into account the unseen as well as the seen aspects of things. Bastiat and his successor, Henry Hazlitt. And that's a great philosophical principle. You're not qualified to discuss any economic issue, for example, rationally, unless you're looking at the unseen consequences, which means the long-term effect upon all groups of people.
Well, would that be the species times deal then? Or just
Personal, species, yeah, anything. It's like a guy who says, oh, isn't this a great bill? I'm going to vote for this. My God, it's creating jobs, TVA.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the scene. It looks good. It looks like a wonderful thing. It's very humanitarian. Look at this. It's seen, it's visible. A bridge is going up, a dam is being built. Water is being made available, agriculture is being improved, and there are lots and lots of jobs for people of Appalachia. God damn, that's a great thing. How could you be opposed to that?
Yeah.
And the answer is, sir, you have obviously flunked the first lesson of economics and one of the cardinal principles of any lover of wisdom. You are only taking into account what is easy to see, and you haven't taken account into the long-term general effects upon all groups of people. You realize the money has to be spent to build that bridge, to build that dam, and to provide these jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Has to come from the taxpayers at large. How can you demonstrate to me that this economic consequence, these economic consequences, the bridge, the dam, the jobs, et cetera, are more beneficial to the society at large than if that money had remained in more competent hands where it could have been allocated for other things?
Which gets me whenever I hear about World War II is what made us prosperous.
Oh,
that makes me puke.
Same argument.
I know it, and how many believe it? It's unbelievable.
Now expand upon that and generalize it, make a great philosophical principle, which is a true lover of wisdom not only honors semantic precision, the scientific method, Occam's razor. But, and the search for universal postulates, but he also takes into account and cultivates this ability to trace the unseen, difficult consequences. You have to trace this out in your imagination in the long term, the general effect upon all groups of people. You have to take into account the unseen as well as the seen, in other words. Until you do that, you're not qualified to discuss anything philosophically or otherwise. It's a failing of just about everybody. It's a time scale thing. All right, then you come and say, and I was thinking in the car, there, I got that one. I got that one. Cultivation of long-term point. Now I know what that means. I got it. I said it better than Columbus. Not because I'm better, but I'm just, I took the cue. He gave me the cue. It slipped out of me in passing. My God, my great teacher. It passed, and I never thought of it myself ever before. I got it. And then I added the final one, which he didn't. It's not because I'm better. It's just I'm a student. Damn good one. And I thought about it. I said, okay. If wisdom is the right application of knowledge, and right can include morality, well, hell, isn't that a constraint? Isn't that one of the supreme, isn't that the supreme characteristic of a lover of wisdom? He will always temper his behavior by the second postulate, the morality postulate. Hell, that's the great credential right there. That's the real calling card. You say you're a philosopher. Tell me, sir, what's your definition of morality? Do you use morality to temper all of your actions? You, the lover of wisdom, who can rightly apply knowledge. Tell me, what is philosophy? And you know, nobody could define that until Galambos. That meant there never was a fully developed philosopher until Galambos. And I got it all from him. And I'm the only one you've ever heard that from. I mean it. And so, you see, even late in his life, even in a course that not too many people came to because he was obviously degenerated into a spent force at that time, I was there. And granted, it was tedious, and granted, he didn't live up on the bed. He just started rattling off things, and he wasn't teaching them. He was throwing out. It was almost as bad as saying. And then there was freedom and capitalism and liberalism and progressive.
And Newton.
And then Newton, were you there?
No.
And then there's a scientific method. He actually did better than that. But I mean, I'm saying he was looking at his clock and he goes, and then there was the ideological program, and then there was the, and he wraps it up and he's done and he wins.
Well,
and he wins the bet, he says. And everybody said, of course, Professor, you won the bet, okay?
Well, who was the bet with anyway?
And what year was this?
I gotta go find it in my notes. I don't remember. It was it wasn't BFSC. It wasn't an open course. It was a special course.
It was in the 80s somewhere. In the
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the 80s?
Oh yeah. And my moral here, the moral of my story is here, that in order to properly represent the professor's intellectual property, his courses, his theories, his thoughts, his biography, everything, it was absolutely essential to be there at the beginning, as close to the beginning as possible. And hold your feet to the fire all those years. Fight through your angers and your rages and your frustrations. Always giving the benefit of the doubt.
Which is another one of my points in the time to confront or not confront. See, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I didn't feel it was worth confronting for the aggravation, etc., and I would just let it go. A lot of things. Not worth it.
Yeah, I've done that too with him. He said some very unkind words to me about, and he said that my son Lance was my best son, and my poor boy Mike was in the audience. Yeah. You told me, you said that to me.
Oh, wow.
And here's Mike sitting next to me. And it was out of context. We were talking about, the context was intellectual aspiration, literary aptitudes, propensities. Mike said Mike never had any of that. So, what I meant was, Lance was my best son in terms of the development of his literary skills, his love of the theory, his primary, his P1 aspirations.
That chapter on Concept 21.
Sure demonstrates that, doesn't it?
You really brought that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I said, Mike, he would fall asleep at lectures. He couldn't, he's so made, you know, but that guy's up at 4 o'clock in the morning and tearing the world apart, you know, while we're sleeping, so it averages out in a sense. But Mike never had the psychological override to stay up late and to listen to me or to Galambos. I never really took him to task. Ben's a witness to this. I knew what he was. He is what he is. You can't fit your children into these Procrustean beds. You know what that word means, Procrustean? It was a terrible monster. He had a monopoly on a little highway in ancient Greece. And he had a bed. And his name was Procrustes. So anytime anybody would come along, he'd get a tall drink of water like Howard here. And he goes, okay, Buster, into my bed. If you get into my bed, you can pass. So, pretty tall here. He squashes him up until his feet hit the end and his head hit air and he fits it. Practically kills him, and he lets him go. Gets a little short guy, and he stretches him out to fit. It's called fitting into the Procrustean bed. I never tried to fit any of my children into a Procrustean bed of my making. Lance fit into the mold of myself, and then some, I think. But Mike never did. But Mikey was loyal, good-hearted by nature, good person, hard worker, saved his money, always had money, always loaned money. One of those kind of kids, paper out, you know, he's got money to loan to all other kinds of guys who are always late in their payments, but Mike was always forging ahead with his wealth. And in that sense, Mikey was wonderful. He was a wonderful eater. He didn't complain. He was a good boy. And frankly, there were times when I'd rather be in his presence than any of my other boys, because he was just like a wonderful, wonderful, loyal dog. I'm not putting him down with that. It's a compliment.
Well, that's one of my other points, is that in my forgiveness or my attitude that you think's, you know, too lenient or whatever, is that we're not all the same, and some can comprehend and some can do, etc. And that's why once I started realizing I could get angry at so many people, you know, because they weren't living up to it, applying, etc., etc. And I understood Galambos' impatience, you know. And when I went to the hospital, I was dealing with, learning to deal that people weren't. He was way ahead of his time, and we've got a long way to go to evolve, and some are going to be ahead of others, but not to go, and we need to see how to cultivate these people, and they're all at different levels.
Yeah.
And how to do that.
See, my situation is, they're on their own. I'm not going to be my brother's keeper there.
No, but you are with your children, and you have to deal with them differently.
I don't know about that one.
You're their teachers.
I always insisted on one thing for my kids. Live the theory.
They have to understand it.
Pretty easy to understand the difference between morality and the lack of it.
The restitution theory, you just are now, and you have been exposed to it for much more than they have, and you're just this year seeing how to apply it this time that you could have.
No, I knew way back then.
But didn't.
But at the beginning of it, my compassion, which was really my love and pity, overruled what I had learned, and I heard as a result of it and harmed not only myself but Joe. That's my point.
But my point is, you who understood more than most, it took that certain evolution to get to now be where you are to apply it.
Yeah.
You know,
and you either apply it or you don't. This is all I'm saying. And you need to know it. And once you know it, you got to apply it.
You want this last piece of orange?
No.
What
does all this stuff boil down to? It boils down to living rightly and making wise decisions about whom you befriend. Howard, I gotta say, you're a good man, good friend.
Thank you very much.
You
make me blush.
And always it boils down to, are you living the theory? That's been my rule with my family, always my family. I said, listen, I don't care what you do in life, but just behave rightly. That's all I ask for. And my son Mikey, as I was talking about, he was mechanically minded. He was a wonderful worker, very provident with his property, and I believe my son has integrity.
He didn't marry the best one, that's all he didn't marry your choice of a woman.
So,
Which I can certainly, I can sure put myself in your place there.
Oh, can't we all?
yeah, it just, you know, and it's kind of interesting. I have many times erred on the side of too great a generosity. And it's been one of my foibles, I guess you could call it. I always I always cast my pearls before swine.
Yeah.
You know, and I've gotten burned pretty bad doing that.
As did Columbus.
Yeah. But when you have somebody who has real proprietary courage, that Columbus talks about in B201, they can't stop explaining and teaching what they believe in, no matter what the consequences are. Bruno was like this. All innovators. It was one of the tests for independence. That's called the proprietary courage test. You know, they will say what they believe in, no matter what the consequence. They really don't give a damn. Well, they care, but they're still going to say it. And so, on the note of you know, being cautious about what we do here, I think probably what we should do here on these tapes, Cheryl, I'll ask you for your cooperation on this. Let's don't cast these before swine, lest they turn them under and then turn and render us asunder. As the Bible says, how's that go to? Cast not your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and in turn and render you asunder. I think that's how it goes. Or do not give to dogs what is holy. That's very important. So I'm going to ask you not to give this, you know, to my enemies. They have demonstrated that they will twist this to their advantage and rip things out of context in order to further slander my name. And
By enemies, he's talking about Hayes and Joinville.
I understand.
keep it away from
Well,
me.
here I want to say that I already made my own evaluation of what, you know, how I feel about what I would do or not do with that, because I already feel what you're saying. And I don't want any acrimony anywhere, any way whatsoever in the first place. You know, that is not my goal. I want to let you know I did share with him, although he doesn't have a copy, it's my copy, of your, that, because actually I did that in hoping to be in a positive way, not a negative way, because it was so touching to me, the whole thing, you know, and revealing for me, of course, of just, bringing Columbus alive like you did. But I will want to share this, like, with my stepfather and my mother, because he's a historian and things like that. But I don't plan to let anybody have any copies except you, Howard, and myself.
Okay. Sure, well, then don't give them copies because it
Right.
could be promiscuously gotten back.
Right.
There's stuff in here that could be very, they could really use that against me.
Sure, I know.
You know that.
Yes, I do.
So I'm going
Right.
to gesture to you of
I'm
good
not-
faith
right.
and friendship.
Right. Well, like I say, I don't want to see things misused.
That's right.
And I know I can see how well it could be, and easily.
Yeah. Okay. With that understood, that's wonderful. So what else was I going to say? I tell you, circulatory structure. Hey, you realize that he has integrated, that means established science. That's a wonderful thing to have. And
That was the day, what?
that Galambos integrated volitional science.
Yeah.
That means that he realized that his postulatory structure did in fact establish the theories of freedom and primary property, or volitional science. Huge moment. Tremendously wonderful moment in world history. And that's why I have it up there with no commentary. I just I have to have people ask the question.
Yeah, I figured that because That's when they say, they give the date. I mean, I'll have to, 1961. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew it was a major date for that.
Well, they founded the Institute on March 14th, same year. Founded the Institute, gave his first session of Course 100 in Santa Ana, Anna's Knickerbocker Hotel, a week earlier.
Mm.
The day before in Santa Ana. So, but it was when he was at the Knickerbocker Hotel on April 8th, 1961.
Dedicating to him.
28th, didn't it?
No. Yeah, 28, yeah.
28th. Who's got us that date?
And were you there?
No.
No.
I didn't
You got
go.
in 1964.
Yeah.
Right.
September 28th.
September 20.
Yeah. I was challenged on September the 25th. Now, I mean to win. I mean to win in the performance of my duties as Columbus's nominated literary
You
executive.
bet.
I don't plan to lose. And I will win. I've already won along.
Yes.
Did you ever get a copy of my letters that I sent out to everybody?
Recently?
No.
Long time.
Just in the beginning.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. Those are pretty thorough. I wanted to see if I could get the flatland courts to agree with my reasoning, not from B2 alone, but from the internal language of the trust itself, that amendment was out of line. I've demonstrated that, and Hayes is gone. Now, Hayes in any way is performing trustee's duties at this time. He's in contempt of court.
He was in contempt of Andrew's court all along,
I agree.
but not Suzanne's.
But I don't, that's right. I took a position, on Suzanne Columbus. I couldn't use any of her work. It was not of value to me.
Well, it wasn't just plain wasn't marketable.
So I had to say, what do I do here? Hayes is telling me I gotta give her credit, find a reason to do it. You even did at the beginning. And you insisted. Everybody did. I said, no, it's a lie, and it's not useful. And I kept putting myself 100, 200, 300, 400 years into the future and beyond, looking back.
She wouldn't have wanted credit for
right.
something she did.
And I figured that out before anybody.
Yeah, but there's credit, what about other credit as far as just credit as, a page of acknowledgement to her?
Before.
Because she was his partner, and it was a business partnership, and she was there with him in all the classes, doing the promotion of the literature, etc.
Fine. Let somebody give her a nice tribute.
Like Cheryl Croxall.
Yeah. Do it.
Well, I'm just saying, I think that kind of credit is due.
But not in the book.
Because she didn't develop it. What'll happen is there's going to be natural estates. And, well, you don't even put it down on me.
No, it's your opinion.
But what has been seemed to have been lost by virtually everyone involved is the credit will be accorded to everyone in due course.
Oh, yeah.
And when the natural estate mechanism kicks in, all of the good things as well as all the bad things that have led to problems will become known, and restitution will be paid and royalties will be paid. And so the acknowledgments will be known. But in the theory of volitional science, who was the one that created it? If you look at it...
I wasn't saying to give her credit that she created it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the...
But as his partner, because without her, I'm not sure he would have gone as far as he gotten. Because he had a solid partnership, and that was his marriage course as far as he asked for a business partner.
That's for him to give.
Yeah.
And he does. There are credits and acknowledgments to Mrs. Bowser. We have a nice...
Oh, I know, but I
In
meant,
fact, in the index, we've got where you can go and find the credits to Mrs. Columbus in the course. But there's other things she did too. But it's not something that at least I see as something that should be superimposed upon or made part of the book or even to the credits. I'm only interested in acknowledging those who actually helped me in preparing Volume 1. That's all.
And that comes at the
Columbus's credits were never given to me by the co-trustees. They never gave anything to me. Maybe they have information that I don't know about. They either Columbus wrote or whatever, or instructions on that, but I never got it, so I don't know. So that's my spin on it. I certainly never used any of her work to do the book, and the fact that she was his wife
And partner. He differentiated not just a wife, and he knew he needed a lifetime partner in partnership.
Yeah.
And to me, that's part of the ideological goal of relationships, and that's to me why I see it as significant.
Howard, one day I talked to Howard about your goal, and I came up with something so fantastic for you that I'm having a blank out. I figured out where your role in history can really be huge. Damn it, I can't remember what it was.
Well, yeah, that she should write a book and put that in it.
Yeah. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
I will.
There's where
Oh, I plan to do my own writing.
Yeah. That's there's where I think the proper tribute should come, and it comes from somebody from a person who's unique. Nobody else can make the claim.
I know.
Oh, 'cause you were there. You were really there.
And that's very beautiful. And
I showed Bill.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
tribute.
Yeah.
and that inspired me to come up with that thought. I don't know if you shared it with
Yes,
Cheryl at the time.
well, sort of, yeah.
I remember, but I had some other stuff in there that was really great that I planned to share with you. Forgot about it, and now in the late hour and everything, I'm blanking out.
Well,
Can you remember, Howard?
you used the word, doggone, I can't remember that word, but you said, well, I think of the word pearls, but that's not what it was.
Oh, I know what it was. Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember now. An idea for how to write your book. Yeah, it had to do with chapter. I had the chapter headings. I had the format for everything. I was going to share that with you. I was going to let Howard do it. A great outline that you might want to consider. I'd help you with it if you wanted it to make it really great. Oh my God! And it would be unique, and it would follow the examples of. Oh yeah! It's coming to me. We take the concept of character. Character is what is the composite of all of the virtues that an individual possesses and has and lives, which makes it impossible for that person to ever behave immorally or to have integrity. So you have integrity. You know the definition of that: consistent, reliable, predictable employment of moral behavior by one who is not subject to enforcement or even detection. Okay, so there's the great thing. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, and I heard Galamo say, where does integrity come from? This is one of those little passing things in the night. Character. And then he went on to something else. And I went, And so I thought about character. What's character then? What in the hell is character? Come on, where does character come from? And so I said, oh hell. Character must be the composite of all those virtues that a person possesses that renders that person incapable of ever committing any kind of a crime or any act of morality. Now, where the hell does the character come from? Oh, I'm glad you're recording this. Where does the character come from? And I thought about that long and long. And then one day I was driving back from Victorville on a business trip. And I went by, it was on a Friday, and there was a facade for a church, a sermon for a Sunday. And it said, we behold the Christ. This is the title for the upcoming Sunday sermon. We behold the Christ and become like him. Okay. And I went, character. We behold the Christ, we become like him. Oh my God. Another input, my subconscious fed me another input. The other input was, Galamo says, my father never gave me a lecture on integrity. You just lived it. And I saw, I beheld the Christ. I beheld the great man. I beheld the most important men in history, for without his integrity, there would be no model for integrity, and forget everything falls to the ground. I beheld him. I saw him. He never preached a lecture to me. I went, oh my God, there it is for Cheryl. This is it for Cheryl. What she can do as an eyewitness is write a book and put down, this is an initial sort of half-baked thought for you. It's like Thomas Paine said to Thomas Jefferson, this is my Christmas gift. I'll give you a gift here. And the gift would be to take and maybe outline, skip the chronological treatment of your experiences with him. Pass that aside, take another approach, and list all the great virtues you can think of. Compassion, kindliness, gentleness, uncompromising, take love, virtue, honesty, compassion, love for learning, take all these things, you can add them up, and you think about them, you can start adding up these virtues, gentleness, kindness, and so on. Get them all, and those are your chapter headings. Then what you do is you take the format of the scriptures, maybe, and you put down, and each chapter will be kind of like a book of the New Testament, so to speak. Maybe not this format, but it's a thought. And you take, like, for example, the epistle to the Ephesians here. This would be a virtue. And then you begin to tell the story like in the scriptures, like a parable. And there was the time my teacher was having dinner. And when you tell the story like in the Bible, very simple and very sweet and very beautiful, as only a woman can do. And my God, people in the future, they'll have the book. They'll have the theory, they'll have all of his anecdotes, and lo and behold, accompanying this as one of the initial great achievements of space-time literature by a person very close to him, comes this book like the parables, and I'll tell you why I'm using this for a minute. And it comes out, and this book will be short little stories. For example, of this vintage, somebody said, a Pharisee once asked Jesus said, unless you love your neighbor as yourself, you shall never enter the kingdom of heaven. Words to that effect. And some Pharisee hotshot says, well, who's my neighbor? And Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan. A man was going by, waylaid by robbers, left for dead, stripped naked, and left to die. A priest goes by, won't touch him. A Levite goes by, won't touch him. And then a Samaritan, the hated Samaritan, the half-breed, the man who mixed his blood with the Babylonians, and came back with the Jews that lived in north of Judea. Hated. The Jews would, even Jesus, they would all bypass him. They'd go out into the desert. They didn't want to walk through Samaria. Here comes the Samaritan. The Samaritan goes over. This hated, dirty half-breed. He goes over, he bathes him, he puts him on his ass, takes him to his home, puts a ring on his finger, anoints his head with oil, nurses him back to health, and gives him some coins and sends him on his way and wishes him good luck. Oh my God. And Jesus says, who was his neighbor? And that's how the story ends. Well, see, you can write stories like this from your memory, and only you can do. And then this book doesn't have to be long, but it'll be like a gospel. It'll be, and what do? They don't teach anything. You don't get cerebral about it. Columbus is enough for that, for everybody, forever and ever. So, but now what the world needs is the child's observance. Young Columbus observing his great father. Only now, posterity, through your work, can observe Columbus as he observed his father through these wonderful anecdotes that you would write, each one capitalizing and illustrating these great virtues. And then maybe either at the beginning or at the end, you write an epilogue or a prologue, and in either of those, or both, you simply state, by reading this book, you will behold a man of integrity living his life, as seen through somebody who was very dear to him and was very intimate to him. And these stories are absolutely unique and historic in their value. Now there is your chance for eternal, not fame, but eternal respect and reputation with tremendous royalties coming back to your natural estate. And it complements what Columbus said. Because he said, I got my integrity from observing my father. And there was a time when Columbus said, I don't think integrity is something that can be taught. He changed his mind on that later. But toward the end, he changed his mind again just before he died. He reversed it. He went back and said, I don't think it can be taught. You either have it or you don't. Well, how did he get it?
Exactly.
He got it by beholding his father.
Right.
No lectures, just stories, anecdotes. Now, normally when somebody writes a book of anecdotes and little stories, it's trivial. Nobody wants it. But if you can put it in the context of the necessity of that sort of thing, so that you can complement your intellectual grasp of his theory, now you're beholding the man at work, and this produces emotional complement to your intellectual grasping of it.
It is a
Son of a bitch, that could be the greatest goddamn thing that's ever been done in the history of the world. Next to,
Yes,
and
obviously.
there's where you get your recognition. There's where you get your power. Now I'll tell you something right now. I'll tell you this right now, that not Joyner, not Hayes, they're going to go down in history in eternal disrepute. They'll never be able to reverse it unless they abide by the theory of restitution. If they do that, hey, I'm the greatest guy in the world to deal with, and I'll welcome them back, but not to deal with literary matters, and probably not with fiscal matters. They've already demonstrated to me they're incompetent. So, that is the case, and if I prevail and I win, you do that. And we're together.
Consider it.
You will make the big time in history. Don't do it, and you'll blow your life. That's not a threat.
Well, I was planning to write.
Don't hook up with the wrong people. And you have to have the wisdom and the sagacity and the character to realize where it's really at. Where it's really at in this room. Now, I'm patient, but I guarantee you I'm going to win. And in history, I've already won. They failed on the theory. I nailed them on that.
Oh, yeah.
And then just to teach them a lesson, without suing them, I simply petitioned the court to rule on what they venerate. And the court says, no, this is illegal. It's invalid. It was illegal from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was. From a legal point of view. Just from a legal point of view. These guys won't listen to me. So the question is, okay, then let's give them a dose of their own lesson. Maybe that'll help.
All they know is flatland.
That's right. And they've told me, we've been to flatland attorneys. Okay, good. I'll show you. I can best you in that area. You want to, I can play all your games. I'll go with flatland. Guess what? I'll win. That's just round one. So, we must never lose sight of the fact, Cheryl, all of you here in this room, that it was Galamos who made the choice. And the co-trustees behaving not only illegally, because that amendment was never legal, but also in flagrant violation of Galamos' very explicit wishes. They refused to acknowledge me as a literary executor, and as a matter of fact, even Gafford, you know that, they didn't even acknowledge him. They wanted to make him an editor of Tuspico. You all know the story. They gave me an ultimatum. Either you will play ball with us, or you don't get the tapes, and we're going to hire somebody else to do it. And they had Royal Cole as one of the candidates there. And I said to myself, they won't listen to me, so I won't argue with them anymore about this. Okay, guys, fine. Just don't put me down as editor, because I'm not an editor. Just put me down as William Martin on the contract. Don't label me. And then I says, I won't sign this thing because you're going to the American Arbitration Association. How flat can you get? My God, don't you know that we shall judge the world?
You took that out of there, didn't they? You took that.
Yeah, thanks to me.
Yeah.
And then I told him, I says, I have rescued your reputations to some extent here.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have a flatland editor have the final word.
Even Joyner admitted that was a big mistake.
But that's only because I brought it to their
sure,
attention.
sure.
And did they thank me for rescuing their reputations? My God, can you imagine if that had gone out into history and posterity would look at this? Those are the trustees. My God, here's the theory over here. It teaches this. These guys are looking to flatland. They're violating. What is this? You mean they were going to submit Galamos' theory to the ultimate arbitration of a flatland editor? What do you think a flatland editor would do with Galamos' size, his swearing, and all that stuff? Even Mrs. Galamos took that out, changed his meaning. I said, God, you can't do that.
No.
He is what he is.
It makes the book flat.
It does. I said, hey, the rule is here. We don't change anything, man. We go with his size. The more swearing, the better. It's funny. And then we threw in the audience laughter. We threw in the ambience. We did all that stuff. And oh my God, it evolved.
The tinkling of ice.
Far beyond where I left those guys. They have no idea what I've done.
Yeah, even the tinkling of the ice in his glass. It tinkles.
You finish my version, it's the real thing. And if they edit and publish my work without my permission,
That's criminal.
all the more criminal. And I told them, I said, I'm not the one that violated their goddamn contract, which I never believed in. But I never did violate it. I performed by it. They're the ones that want it. You need to know that. You need to know that, because you see, what they did is they deleted literary executor under my name. Hayes did it. I don't, Joyner didn't actually physically, it was Hayes who did that. And I said, well, in that case, if you're adamant about that, well then, I'm sorry. See you later. I'm pulling the plug on you guys. And that's well known, we all know that story.
But you
But
already
you see, I had the right in that contract to, it was subject to my approval. Any changes or deletions. They admitted that I was the editor. They never would let me say in that contract, literary executor, although I have a copy in my initial negotiations with them, I put in literary executor and scratched it out. They were adamant to the end. And when Hayes came over here that night, he says, have you got that out of here? You know, how are you going to sign this? I left it blank. And so then finally I sent it over to literary executor. No, you can't do this. I says, okay. You better shape up, Hayes. If you don't, pull the plug on you. This was on April 11th or something like that. And he wouldn't do it. He's intractable. And the thing is, never once has he ever acknowledged Columbus's wishes in that trust concerning the literary executor. What is a literary executor? He's the P1 company.
That's right.
He's the P1 guy. And the P2 guy is the trustee. Not trustees, trustee. You got a P1E and you got a P1E of the P2 company. That's what you got. And they come together, and the operating company is right here. And then the product is not the scribble duck. The scribble duck happens to be book one.
Book, yes.
And what is book one? What is book one?
That's all of it.
Ben, give me the contract real quick. Let me send it to you. Quick. Then we got it. Call quiz. Powerful stuff here. Big decision. I told Joyner, I said, you better think long and long about who you're going to associate with here. It's going to either be Hayes or me. If you continue to associate with him, the implications of that are not good for you in history. You're in direct rebellion against the professor, and you goddamn it, you know it. And I says, if you continue with him, maybe you don't care about blot on your escutcheon for all time. Maybe you don't care, but you better think long and long about it. And that's the question that has to be put Hayes today. But to Joyner. I don't think Joyner listens to say it. But I have done exactly what the professor wanted me to do.
It's just too bad you couldn't have
And
started.
nobody else
way longer.
had a goddamn clue as to what to do. Knudsen, Vickery, and some other guy, I forget his name. Mrs. Columbus's helpers. Clues.
Gafford.
Clues. Unable to perform, although I must say Gafford at least manfully resigned. And acknowledged his incompetence before everybody. And I praised him for that. I said, that was your finest hour. It was your finest moment.
Eric has been copying and moving stuff around.
Okay, right, that's right.
Paraphrase it, you know what.
The book contract.
I've got a copy of it.
Read it carefully on the first page. It defines book one. I'll tell you what it is. Book one is the theories of volitional science, principally V50 and V201, but not limited to. That's book one.
No, I don't have a copy of that.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. It's, that's it. Book one is V50 and V201. And any other courses of volitional science that, in the absence of the professor, his literary executor, should decide is essential to know. Mrs. Columbus wanted to add Surface the Giant. Columbus's, I think, 3-session discussion of the second postulate. That may or may not go into the book. It's badly, it's a rough transcription. He's all over the place in that.
Well, it could be.
But in OEC,
It
I
could be.
have a superior accounting of it, and nobody else knows that.
Mm.
That could go in to as a further commentary on the second postulate, its historical and philosophical significance. I'm very seriously considering doing that. But then we have first things first. We have to take care of the mess here. We've had a big detour, we've had a big delay. These guys have cut me off from my money. I stopped my business. You know, I terminated my estate planning business. You look on the wall over there, those are my commissions, $300,000-400,000 a year. They're gone now. I made a decision. So what am I living off of now? My capital. I'm living off of my capital. Cannibalizing my estate because I won't give up. I'll be damned if I'm gonna go back to estate planning. I told my wife, I said, well, what the hell? I says, worst things comes to worst, I'll be a barefoot beach boy at Ocean Beach. I always wanted to be a bum anyway. And we can live on a shack on an alley in Ocean Beach, and you and I can parade the beach every day and drink coffee and walk out on the pier and enjoy nature and get good suntans.
What about the serialization? Did you want to mention that, anything about that?
I don't know. Keep that quiet. You never know. I don't know the people you're going to show this to. I don't know how much we can trust them. I guess they're trustworthy, aren't they? If you tell them that this is not to go beyond.
Oh, I not, yeah, there aren't gonna be many. I mean, my parents is probably pretty much it.
Yeah. But you see, I'll tell you what authority we should all go by. Mark my words well. The theory. Can't violate the theory. Number 2, the book contract. Number 3, Galamos' trust. And anything else that Galamos published pursuant to all this. What everybody seems to realize, especially the goddamn lawyers, is this: the rationale of the trust, the purpose of Galamos' trust, the sole, very explicit purpose that he identified in his trust, beautifully, was it's four-pronged.
And then we're gonna have to.
Yeah. Publication of all their literary works. The editing and publishing of all their literary works. Eventually. That's the principal first function of the trust. That's why it was set up. 2, the creation of a museum. Of all their memorabilia, etc., which is vast for the job. Great lifelong career, I think. You never get to the end of it, it seems like.
No, there's an awful lot of stuff.
But the museum is not as important as the publication of their works. That comes first. The museum comes second. And then third, after these 2 functions or purposes or rationale have been satisfied, then all the income from the trust is to be added to principal, since there are no beneficiaries. And the combined result is to be invested in cosmological and technological research. It's all familiar? B201 stuff. Now, think about it for a minute. Think about this for a minute. If the purpose of the trust is to publish their works, create a museum, and invest in technological and cosmological research, then the instruction to the trustee to consult with the literary executor is not permissive, as the attorneys like to say. It's mandatory. For this reason, if they withhold that instruction to consult with the literary executor, nothing can ever be published, because the power to edit and publish was not vested in the trustee. It was vested in the literary executor. So, it's not whether you want to or not. You must.
Absolutely.
Because it follows from the rationale of the trust. The purpose of the trust is to publish their works. Number 1, most important. So if the trustee says, well, I'm instructed to consult with the literary executor, but I don't have to. It's permissive.
Wrong.
Well, okay. What is the consequence if you never consult with the literary executor, since you can't publish and you can't edit it? You haven't got that power. Then the very purpose of the trust falls to the ground. It's clear as bell. And I've had 3 attorneys have ego collapses over my correcting their ill logic. One of them said, I politely said, well, I don't agree, and he sends me a letter and he doesn't work with me. Another attorney says, well, I don't think I want to be, you talk too much, Martin. I said, yeah, well, maybe I talk too much in your mind, but you better listen to what I'm saying, because obviously you need to know it. He says, well, I don't want to be your attorney. Fuck you. I'm going to walk out, that's it. I won't take that from anybody. He was having an ego collapse because his client, quote unquote, is arrogating authority. He's trying to reason with the attorney that these professionals can't stand that. And then another attorney was too illiterate and too insensitive and incompetent. He couldn't even word anything right on their petition. I read him too. And they had the unmitigated goal of only $3,000 each. Ain't gonna get it. Finally, I got a hold of a good attorney. He saw him right away. He says, okay, you're hired. I don't want to sue anybody. I'm not litigious. I just like to get the satisfaction of knowing that the law itself agrees with my reasoning here. But namely, that amendment that was passed in October of 1995 did not reflect the original trustor Galamos. It violates his teachings, and I want the law to say that amendment was done illegally, which in fact it was. That's nice for history. It's a little touch that's added to this saga, this heroic struggle. And people will someday, who are distanced from the issue as from us by centuries, will look back upon this as one of the greatest heroic struggles for justice and for salvation of mankind, with the stakes being survival, that has ever happened in the history of the world. There's no question about that. I mean, let's face it. We're going to get this thing done and done right, or it's not going to be done at all, or it's going to be a misapplication.
And that's criminal.
And that's criminal. It's already criminal. I've won on that point. Oh, there's no question about that.
Those guys have no right to have somebody else write the book at all.
Oh, God almighty. If they've been paying guys to do that stuff out of Columbus's assets. Oh,
That is
shit.
true.
Boy, there's a shit gonna hit the fan when I find that out, if I find it out. And I plan to.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm a big shot? Bullshit. I'm a big shot. I would rather be writing my own stuff. This stuff that we've given you here. That's what I want to do. I accepted that literary executorship because everybody else flunked. I told Gafford, I said, oh God almighty, this is horrible. This is Mrs. Galamos' work? Oh my God, she changed the meanings of it. She changed her husband's words and then passed it off as though it was his. That's fraud, God damn it!
Yeah.
She took out the workshops. Did you know that? Oh, I'm telling you. She deleted the workshops altogether. They were too tough to do, I presume. And guess what? You know what was in the workshops? About 70. I can't remember. 50 to 100 things that are in B201.
Well, I mean, I know they were valuable.
Oh God!
Oh,
The
yeah.
Robinson Crusoe story. In B201, he refers back to Robinson and Crusoe. The reader of B201 they're gonna look at Mrs. Galamos' version, and they're gonna go, well, we never read that in there. What's all that about? And how about the reconciliation of the two concepts of freedom? Which one of them is freedom is an idealization. It's the carnal engine of freedom. Well, carnal engine is unattainable. It is impossible to build. Well, if freedom is the carnal engine of volitional science, then it is exactly what Galamos said it wasn't. Impossible. Because it's an idealization. What the hell? He just contradicted himself. If you go to the workshops, he resolves it. He finds it in two different terms. Jesus, that's what rescues everything. That's where the reconciliation is. I don't think anybody else knew that until I came along. I mean it. Nobody knew it. Mrs. Galamos obviously didn't. And so that would have been left. I rescued Galamos' theory from that incompetence. You know.
Caterpillars, there were a lot of...
Oh, the petitionary caterpillar story. I mean, there was about 50 to 100 things. I counted them up once, and I was going to show that to the world someday, and I will. But nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew how to format it. I figured that out. And then after I did it, that goddamn adjoiner says to me, well, anybody could have done that. I could have done that. Same old story. Yeah, how come you didn't? How come you never thought of it? How come you didn't mandate that the editor of Tusco do what you say is necessary to do that you can do?
And you let it smoke for 2 years.
Yeah, and, you know, all that time. So there was some major, I mean, the list goes on and on, and everything they do is wrong, and it just keeps getting more and more compounded, and I want to stop that. I want them to stop it. I would like to see them salvage their reputations. I like Hayes. Believe it or not, he's an okay guy.
That's the thing, see, is I don't like seeing the fraction at all. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, and it's tragic.
It is.
It is.
Hayes, I could have been a buddy with. He's my type of guy.
Well, and we don't need to be antagonistic. There's too much to do.
That's right. Pre-publication subscription agreement. Book 1 means the book containing the theories taught by Andrew J. Galambos in the volitional science courses, parenthesis, principally courses V50 and V201, in parenthesis of FEI. It's not V50.
It's both.